All right, let's just go around the groups real quick. I don't know if you're in any kind of order or not, but just so.
Yeah, I mean, ours.
Okay.
Ours had a lot of different emotions, I feel like, within the whole thing. She was talking about her dream of being an actress, and one thing that we had said that we thought was like the most heartbreaking. She basically said, like, yes, I want to be an actress. We're like, okay, well, Alexis had asked, what are the steps that you need to take in order to do that? And she's like, oh, well, I mean, I'm going to graduate, and then I'm going to have to choose something else, because I'm not going to be able to be an actress like that. There is no drama program here, and my teachers are telling me, like, this isn't basically a legitimate dream. And so, like, that recognition of, like, this is what I want, and, like, she went on to talk about, like, that she would want to go on the stage, and, like, her favorite actresses, and other things like that. But at the end of the day, she knows that that's not going to actually happen.
And she kind of said, like, they support me, and they're trying to help me, but at the same point, at the end of the day, we all know that that's not a real job, and that at the end of the day, I'm going to have to provide for a family. And so this is how it is. Another part, which kind of, she wrote down a little bit, was talking about her family. She talked about how her grandmother does basically everything for them, and how there's a lot of problems with drinking. Her mom isn't really around because she drinks a lot, and how her grandmother basically makes sure there's food on the table. And how her friend, who's actually in, I think, John, your guys' room, she was saying that her friend is like something that she leans on, because when she's out of food, she goes to her friend's house, and she helps her, and she was basically talked about her brothers too. She's like, she helps get food for my brothers, because she said that she has a young baby in her family, and she has 2 sisters, and then her uncle, who's in jail, has a son who's little, who she basically considers a brother. And so she talked a lot about their dynamic, and just how much she relies on her grandmother and her friend to help them.
Our group, we saw the same kind of themes, obviously, especially since
They were
they're really close friends. She talked about a lot. At first, and in general, she didn't want to talk about what was going on. She would say, there's drugs in my community. I don't like being here. I don't want to be here. I want to leave. But then she'd say that she doesn't want to talk about it. She'd be like, I don't feel safe here. I'm like, okay, well, do you want to talk more about that? And she'd be like, no, I don't want to talk more about that. And I could see that there was something really big, kind of seemed like it was eating away at her in a sense. And she talked about that her mom drinks a lot, and that her dad was killed, and that her grandmother's doing everything as well. And her grandmother's the only person she has, and she talked like how much she just felt horrible because of the way that her sister acts to her. And it was really upsetting to see how much it was really affecting her. But she didn't want it to feel like she wanted to deal with it or wanted to talk about it at all.
She also talked about the frustration that she's feeling in the community, and that she feels that the lack of support in the community is one of the things that's holding her back. And that was a big frustration. I also got the impression that I was the one conducting the interview, and she really wasn't opening up to me, and then you guys would ask questions, and that you got much fuller responses. So it was almost, she was a lot more uncomfortable with me than she was with you two.
She was, when we phrased the question in a positive way, she would answer the positive question and then answer the negative issues too. Like, for example, we asked, what's the one thing you want to change about your life? And she's like, the way I live, I don't want to talk about it, when he asked it. And then I asked later, well, I understand that you don't want to talk about what you want to change, but you said you changed the way you live, so how do you want to live? How do you want to make that different? She's like, well, I'm very rude. So then she talked about actually how the negative things that she does want to change. She's like, I'm very rude to people, and I don't like that about myself. And she had a lot of guilt issues with that. And then she went on to answer the question, I want to be a good person. I want to treat others the way they treat me. So that was really interesting.
It's great how you turn that, trying to turn that around a little bit to get her to self-reflect, but based on what she wants to do, what she wants to change about her situation, as opposed to just dwelling on the negative.
I think it helped her a lot more when we kept on saying, you don't have to answer this.
Yeah.
Because initially she was so shut down. She didn't want to talk about anything. She didn't want to elaborate. She was wringing out her hands. She just...
Those are good things to know, too, in the observations. Yeah.
So we just made sure, like, we're constantly like, you don't have to answer this. Just talk about it in general. You don't have to talk about your experiences, but talk about what you see outside of your family, because family seemed like the touchy subject. So it was like, what about the broader community? What about everything else that you see rather than...
I just have one follow-up question. You said something about she doesn't like how her sister treats her. You'd been talking about the grandmother. She doesn't like how her sister treats the grandmother?
She doesn't like that either. She doesn't like that either. She doesn't like how the sister treats anyone.
She does seem extremely stern though when she talked about how she acts towards her grandmother though.
Okay. So just because there were 3 she's in there, when you write that up, make sure that you identify which she you're referring to, because I got confused and that was probably just because you were just, spontaneously talking about it.
Do you think she's somebody who could use some follow-up
Sounds
help?
like
I mean, it sounds like there's something maybe brewing. I mean, they all have issues. There's all, the same similar problems in community and family. These same issues keep up, but it seems something even more repressed in there somewhere.
For both of the ones that we've heard so far, it sounds like just make those notes so that they can see if there's some other kind of
Because Nancy
support.
will follow up, try to follow up with them to give a little bit, have somebody else or her or somebody else talk to them a little bit more in depth, and if they need some help, they might be able to follow up.
It was funny because the one thing, just kind of interjecting the one thing she said is that she wants to be a person to go back to schools and be like a psychiatrist and a psychologist and like kind of counsel kids on like what to do in their future and stuff like that. And we were like, that's great. It was just crazy because we were like, the actors were like, well, what would you do if that didn't work out, or what are people, you need some people are kind of pushing you to choose something else. What would it be? Ashley asked, and she's like, well, I would choose that because I just really want to help other people achieve what they want to do. And it was funny because at the end of our session, we were like, do you have any questions for us? And she wanted to know our dreams. Mm-hmm. She's like, what do you guys want to do and why do you want to do it? And she's like, kind of like, and what are you doing now and how are you going to get, it was kind of, it was really cool to see her turn the tables and really want to know.
And she was also like asking us why we wanted to do.
Yeah.
She asked me why I wanted to be a nurse, why she wanted to be a pharmacist, why she wanted to be a teacher, and it was very just another way to gain information.
Yeah.
But effect you had already, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good. Why don't we keep
Group
moving a
number
little
3,
bit?
yeah.
Another,
So the girl that we talked to was completely different than the other 2 people that we had interviewed, but you could tell she had a dream and she knew what she wanted, and she had a rough idea of how to get there. She wanted to be a teacher. She had thought about other options before, but she enjoys helping people. She used the word, she wants to learn kids how to read, and I think she meant taught, but she enjoys helping them, and she wants to help them read and write. She loves writing.
And she said to help them reach their goals too.
Yeah, she said she wanted to help them reach their goals.
Yeah.
Her community that she lives in, she said it was nice, but there's still that group of people that causes trouble. She said she even said, she's like, they're not kind. They'll fight every now and then.
She's rude too.
Yeah, rude.
People.
It's her mother and her brother as a family unit. So we would ask about, what were your parents' dreams? She would always use her mother as an example. And then at the very end, I was like, so do you have a father? And she was like, yes. And I was like, and then Sierra was like, well, what does he do for work? And she was like, I don't know, but I don't stay with him. So there's that going on. We didn't want to touch too much on that, but I thought even without the father, she still had good support from her mother, which was completely absent in the other 2 interviews.
And she did say, she said that she's going to achieve her goals. So she was very like, oh no, this is happening. Like I can
can do it, I can get it done. She said, I know what my friends aren't doing right. And I said, we had the one question, are people in your community achieving their dreams? She said, no, because they're drinking and they're smoking and they're too busy having fun and they don't do their work and they don't focus. And I was like really impressed that she knew exactly what she had to do to achieve her dreams. But she did say, so she, at one point she would say things like that, like, I know it's going to happen. But then she said that she doesn't like to talk about her dreams to anyone because she's afraid they aren't going to happen. So she still does have like a fear, and she doesn't want to talk about it in case they don't come true, which I thought was like interesting. And she didn't, when we asked her like what would help her, she really didn't know. Like she didn't say like, oh, it would help me if I had like, you know, more, like help in school or more guidance. Like she really didn't know what else could help her, which I thought was like, maybe it's because she hasn't, this is all she knows, so she couldn't even think of.
This is exactly the point of why ANSI is trying to do this, because they may still have very concrete dreams and aspirations and they want to achieve them, but there's nobody there to help them or guide them or provide them advice or say, here's the next step that you need to do. It's not here.
They have to do it all on their own.
And she doesn't even talking to people about it because she's afraid to.
Right.
But she did say she was very fortunate, from what we could tell, that her mom was really supportive, and she said she wants to leave, get out of here with her mom, take her mom and her brother and live somewhere else where people are nicer. And she did say that she likes to golf and that her family supports that. And she's good at golfing. So I thought that was like also awesome that she loves golfing and her face lit up, and she loves talking about it.
There's a backstory to the golf. She was receiving support at the primary level school from Hopewell Methodist Church, like kind of scholarship support so she could pursue her golf interests. But once she went to high school, secondary school, that support was cut off, and we don't know exactly why or what the reason, if it was just miscommunication. I'm sure Hopewell doesn't want to cut off somebody if somebody's doing well, but there was a support mechanism that was there for that. And write that down, because ANSI knows her and her golf talents and skills or whatever.
We talked about golf.
And so
ANSI
can follow up with her and with Hopewell and maybe try to get some support back.
She did say that her family, like a lot of people in her family were interested in golfing, but her family only picked her and her nephew as the people who are able to golf. So I kind of interpret that as they're only supporting it in two of the children that are in the family. And she said was very lucky and happy that they had picked her as someone who gets to do that, because it was she made it seem like not a lot of people in her family are going to be able to do that.
Right.
So.
Did you want anything?
One thing. Before we had gone to that interview, Sierra mentioned that looking at the first two, the level of education impacts the way their dreams are going to come about. Because the first one, he had an idea. Second one, not so much. And then the third one, she had several ideas along the way, and she was really determined to become a teacher. And then also the level of communication. We needed a translator for the second one because he could not speak any English. And then this one, her English was very fluent and she was very articulate and polite when talking to us.
And so we did kind of confirm that prediction that being in school might be what gives them a passion and a drive to think about a future and to imagine a future, because the second interview, he was like just trying to make ends meet and he had no idea what he wanted to do. He just wanted to work. He's like, I'm confused, I need to work, I need to support my family, I don't know how, I don't know how I'm going to accomplish this, I need to do this, 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 and I can't. Whereas the other two, it was like possibilities and it was like open opportunities, and they were telling us how they're like a vision that they had for themselves, and he didn't have it when he wasn't in school. So
it's good. Sorry to interrupt. It's good to have those hunches about those predictions. I would hold off on sort of confirming those until we've heard those discussions about all 30 interviews.
And that probably, my guess is that probably will come out from everybody. But
right. It's good that you're thinking about it right now, but don't get too set in what you know. Right? Okay.
Let's hear from the other two groups. Do you guys want to talk?
Sure.
You can get in front of the camera if you want to be on the camera.
Come hang out with you. The one common thread that kind of went along the lines of all the people we interviewed was total persistence on what they wanted to be, what their dreams were, and no other factors factor would kind of deter that from happening. They knew what they wanted, and nothing would stop that from happening. In particular, the third girl we had, she wanted to be a doctor. In fact, she had her goal set so down in referring that she wanted to go to Boston University, and she wanted to take an education in America and kind of follow that up. But another thing that was noteworthy about that was the means of achieving that were not reliant on other people. She was completely independent. She knows that she does not seek kind of advice or guidance from other people that will help her achieve that goal, which is something that you wouldn't really expect out of a child. Usually they're pretty reliant on other people in their lives. And that was the most noteworthy thing I was able to, or we were able to come up with. And along those lines, she's just a really well-rounded person. She likes to sing, she likes to dance, she likes Mariah Carey. Had a bonding moment there. So, yeah, do you have anything else to add?
Basically, and she also kind of reiterated how her community is unsafe, and she basically said she doesn't go out at night. Her community is not a very close-knit community because everyone just stays in their houses because they're scared and it's not safe. And she didn't want to go into it, but she just kind of said, like, I think she used the phrase, like, bad things, something along those lines. Like, but she didn't want to talk about it. Like, but she was, it's bad. So that kind of thing. And she said how she wants to get out of, she wants to stay in South Africa, even though she wants to go away to school. She wants to come back and practice here, but not specifically here. She said either like near the harbor or near Salisbury, wherever that is. So I thought that was interesting too.
Yeah, she was pretty inspirational, and I think it's because she's still in school, and she said she wanted to take her metric exam to go to Boston to do it, and but there is no help. There's no one to help her prepare for this. I don't even know how she would even do that.
Do you have a sense of why she's so strongly kind of independent? I mean, other than you think she knows that she cannot rely upon anybody, or there's nobody to rely upon?
It was weird because she was talking about her mother, and then we're like, oh, so like, does your mom, like, I think something about schoolwork. She's like, well, I don't live with my mom. And we're like, oh, so who do you live with? And she's like, well, I live with my stepfather, my older sister, and her husband, and my younger sister. And her younger sister wants to be a teacher, so she was like talking about her a little bit, like she's like on that path. And her older sister works at a department store, and her dad died the last day of school, yeah. And then we went to ask her about it, and she like got really upset. So we were like, oh no, it's okay, don't worry about it, you don't have to talk about it. So I think there's family issues there too, and maybe that started with the whole she can't rely on anyone. And I also think, like what I said with the teachers beating kids, that she made that comment. So she doesn't think she can turn to her teachers except the one, Mrs. Abrams, who's like really nice. She's so nice, she's so kind, she's gentle, she's the word gentle. So that's why she's her favorite teacher, and that's a geography teacher. So it's not even related to being a doctor or her favorite subjects.
Definitely things to note for Nancy as possible follow-up for support mechanisms for her.
Not only
Just
that.
to write in at the bottom of your themes. The last word?
Yeah, thanks, Tony. Good, thanks, guys.
Sure.
Well, so our girl, we couldn't exactly understand her. We had to get it translated, so we had it sort of paraphrased. But what we understand is that she wants to be a police officer so she can change her community for the better, because she's seen a lot of violence and crimes, and she described some of them, but we really only got a snippet kind of thing. So I'm totally blanking.
She said rape and molestation a lot.
Yeah.
Those were like regular words.
She was very passionate.
That's
And
true.
she was very driven, and she knew what she wanted to be. She did not have a good relationship with her parents. Her mom was an alcoholic, and her dad smokes a lot. And she said, I do not want to be like them. In fact, the reason why I want to change and change the community. And
she had one woman, her name was Bonita, and she is a policewoman, and that is who she talks to. She's the only person that knows that she wants to be a policewoman except for us. She's never told any of her friends or her parents or a teacher. She said, I think she really wishes that her mom would be supportive.
Yeah.
She really expressed that wish, and she's like, I hope they would support me, but she didn't know.
She said that she was happy because she had a mom and dad, because some people don't have a mom and dad, but she doesn't want to be anything like her parents.
Yeah. So she doesn't talk to them really, but she's thankful for them that she even has a mom and dad at all. So that was kind of encouraging. But she did mention that her mom wants to hit her. I don't know. She didn't say that she had, but that like.
She doesn't spend a lot of time at home.
Yeah,
she spends a lot of time with a friend.
But
yeah,
she was very passionate and driven and knows what she wants.
She sees things in the community that she doesn't like, and it really feels like she's going to change them.
but she should be pregnant. She wants to go to Cape Town too because her uncle is supposedly going to help her with her education. I didn't really understand that, but apparently she needs to go to Cape Town where her uncle lives to help her become a police officer.
Well, it's a support network of some sort. Somebody she's looking to for help or guidance or mentorship, the other policewoman, and those are things to acknowledge and identify. And
she was very smart. Like
yeah.
she
very
said
smart.
a lot of really like meaningful things.
Well, you should really give yourselves a round of applause.
How about a round of applause for everybody?
Good day for her. Really hard. Did it feel like hard work?
Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes more than others. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to, I want to commend you guys, congratulate you, and thank you. I know it wasn't easy, it's difficult. We've got some serious cross-cultural issues going on, and for both sides, obviously, not just us, but for them kind of coming to us and trying to interact with us. It's not an easy thing. And that's part of it is a learning process for us and understanding these kind of cross-cultural issues, but just sitting down, asking questions, dealing with some of the issues that you've been dealing with, hearing the stories. It's not easy, and kind of keep moving, keep pushing forward, and getting something down in the notes will be helpful. Understand there are lots of small pieces. You're part of a smaller piece that's going to hopefully kind of come together in a larger research project that Nancy is developing. She's got a kind of a new position, new college, new school that's focused on family education and social welfare issues. And so all of this information will be compiled into a bigger story in which then she can seek out support, money, grants, policy, schools, community that can maybe make a difference in these.
Think about it like building blocks or Lego. So each interview is one little building block, right? And they start to connect, right? And so even just you're finding connections among your 3 interviews, and then we're going to find connections among the 10 that when we break in groups of 10, and then we're going to build on that and find connections. And she's going to, go and move with that data beyond that as well. And some of them, they may do follow-up interviews. I don't know if she already mentioned that. So based on some of what you say and the participants' availability, they may seek to do additional follow-up interviews, and then, like I said, maybe follow-up with some of them to provide some support resources. So that is already making a big difference potentially in some of these students' lives that can then give them the evidence to gain grants and things like that to provide something maybe for the whole school that can support the whole community. So it really can build into something really, really meaningful and significant.
It's hard sometimes. I know in previous years the students felt frustration. I heard a story, it impacted me, I want to help, I want to do something, I want to give them money or do something like that. And we probably can't do that. We can't make that immediate I mean, you did make an immediate impact just talking to them today. Remember that, right? This was something very special and very unique, and they gained a lot from it, and you know, it did matter, all right? But then you want to do, you know, the next step. That may take a little bit of time, and again, this is a part of a larger project here that we're trying to make a difference with, okay?
Yeah, our girl at the very end, when we asked her what makes her happy, it was really encouraging because she was like, being here, and she was so sincere about it. So while not everyone may have said that, I'm pretty sure that, you know, that's all of them were happy just being able to talk to us and have someone listen, so that was cool.
Absolutely.
Well, our first interview with the younger kid who was 14, when we asked him questions, you could see him mouthing the words, and then he would say it out loud. So you thought like he wasn't going to say it because there was so much lag time. But when you were looking at him, he was thinking, he was trying to articulate what he wanted to say. But he was very shy. He definitely preferred the one-word answers. And I thought that, like, talking about sports with both the boys, like, that's what really made them happy. Like, the younger kid, whenever we asked him his favorite subject or anything, he just said cricket. Like, I want to play cricket. Like, I just want to play cricket. I have to practice. Like, I have to do this. So that was what he was really passionate about. And then the older guy that we spoke with, he was very articulate in English. We had no problems except that one word that we didn't know. And he was very close with his family. And it was also really interesting, sorry, I'll be brief. The younger kid, Lester, he didn't feel safe in his community. He only feels safe at school. But when we asked Marshall, who was the older one, who was 18, he said that he feels safe. He was like, yeah, there's no problems. Like, it's so safe here.
He doesn't live here, he lives far away though, farther away.
Okay. Right, but it was just like the whole safety thing, like not feeling safe.
Were you able to get anything in terms of dreams or hopes or things? And you can talk about both interviews, that's fine. We can throw that all out right now.
Lester, his dreams were to be a cricket player, a doctor, and a worker. Yeah, those were his dreams, right? Mm-hmm. Was there anything else? Oh, yeah.
Just a cricket player.
Yeah, just a cricket
You
player,
mentioned
really.
he wanted to be a cricket player.
Yeah, that was every other word. And then Marshall's dreams, he dropped out of school in grade 11, but we think that was really recently because he's 18, and he said that his dad his dad passed away and that's why he stopped. And he also has a 6.5-month-old sister, and it just seemed like it was really recent, so we didn't want to like press that issue because that was really personal and we didn't want to go there. So his dreams were to be a worker because he said being successful meant to provide for his mom and be a good person. I mean, that
Wants to be a firefighter.
Yeah,
That's what
and
we
he wants
just
to be a firefighter is what we just found out because that was a word we didn't understand.
Okay.
And because when we asked him what his dad did, he said his dad was a carpenter. When we asked if he wanted to do that, he's like, no, I definitely don't want to do that.
Did you find that any of the questions your interviewees had more difficulty understanding them than others?
What makes you successful one, neither of them really understand that, and we had to describe what that meant, which was kind of awkward too, because being successful, we wanted their interpretation of what that meant. So to describe it just made it awkward, I thought.
Remember we had that difficulty yesterday with successful. That doesn't seem to be a word that they either can't comprehend or is translating well.
Mm-hmm.
So you can ask, what does it mean to you to have a good life? Which is kind of getting at the idea of thinking about the future as to what's the ideal kind of representation of being successful, yes, but having things in good life. How do you know you are doing well? How would you know that things are going well? Or be happy, or that different type of language. So this afternoon, maybe try that with the young girls. Maybe they'll understand successful, but I think that's been a real difficult one. All right, to kind of get some good information.
Thanks, Bill.
Do you want anything else? Tell us what you want.
If you're in the same room as Morgan, just add on.
I just want to know. I don't know what you
No,
want.
Yeah, I wasn't sure whether
Just listening. hearing. I'm writing things down too, so.
Are you guys okay?
I'm not
Oh,
in
she's
the group.
sorry.
Oh.
I'm in a new group, that's why I was wondering.
Okay, all right, so next group.
Alicia's right there.
Go ahead.
It's me, Steph, and Sky.
Okay.
I guess as far as the hopes and dreams, what we got, the first child was not very responsive. It didn't seem like he understood us a lot of the time, so language barrier, question mark. He gave us some yes and no answers, but what we really got out of him was rugby. He really enjoyed rugby. That was his fallback whenever he didn't seem to really understand was rugby or sport. But he did also mention about being a doctor and that he wanted to move to Australia. So they might have been talking beforehand about that. But yeah, or they've had common experiences with Australian something.
Right.
Yeah, so that was mainly what we got from him. Like I said, he didn't seem to understand a lot of the stuff.
Did he talk more in Afrikaans in the sense that you would need?
We asked him like 3 times if he would prefer to respond in Afrikaans, and each time it was no and head down. So
Yeah, the first time he was like, yeah, we were like, okay, and then
he just never did.
He just stared at us and we were like, okay.
Yeah.
I think he interpreted that as though we were asking him if he preferred us to ask him in Afrikaans, but then we continued in English. So when we invited him to answer in Afrikaans, I still think that the language barrier from us asking the questions, I don't think he knew what we were asking. So it didn't make a bit of difference if he could have spoken in English or in Afrikaans.
Okay.
That's what I think.
We tried to reword them like multiple times and he just didn't really seem to understand.
And if I'm correct, this was the interview with the party confusion, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever figure that out?
No, we listened to it a couple times.
I don't know. I'm the only one that thought that he didn't say party.
Right.
It just like if you think about it, when we asked him what it was either fear or challenge or something, and he said it was either a party or I thought it was apartheid. And the way that it was responded, because if it was a party, that would be kind of funny. Like, why are you afraid of a party? And like, so there was like, we giggled.
Okay.
And we said, oh, why a party? And then he almost like shut down after that, and he was very uncomfortable. He didn't want to answer any more questions about his fears. It was just he would like shake his head, like he had nothing else to say. And like because I was taking notes and I was watching the iPad, I guess that's partly why like I picked up on that and I started thinking about it. And that's why part of me wonders like if he did say apartheid, and that our reaction might have, because obviously if that's what he said and we laughed. I mean, I feel horrible. I don't know what he was saying.
But I think that this is a good example of how nonverbal communication is extremely important in an interview. And it's not just from our end, but also picking up on their nonverbal communication. I was telling Hannah, the group that I was watching, the young girl, and the thing that I didn't mention when I was looking at the video was that I was wondering if you were sitting here because her eye contact was here. So in the room, when you finally figured out where you were going to sit, were you sitting at the angle that she was looking at?
Yeah, I was sitting at the head of the table more, but the table was short, so it made it more angled. She goes up and out.
Exactly, and that's what I kind of picked up from the recording of it. But just to know that either way that it's interpreted, that we do have to understand that it really is an interview situation. And so that nonverbal communication is going to be significant because it could make it really uncomfortable, or it could help that person warm up quite easily. So if you do feel like you want to chuckle, that you are reserved about that because you don't know, what that person may have meant by their comment. But we'll figure it out. It happens.
And I guess I shouldn't say that it was like, oh, we were like, oh, ha, ha, ha.
No,
it was
no,
more
no.
like a party. Like, why are you afraid of a party? And I guess that's why.
Did you have maybe have Ansi look at that? Do you have that the clip or the part there?
It doesn't have like a timeline though.
Yeah, we have to like go back through and look. But I guess because like when we did listen, we went back and listened to it once, and it does the words. It's the fact that he like shuts down and he just doesn't want to say anything else. I don't know.
and like in context, it wouldn't make sense that he was inappropriate.
Party can be fun too.
Yeah, but then he,
And I'm thinking that it's quite possible. And if he seriously meant that it was a party, and he thinks that maybe you think that that's kind of weird, he may shut down for that reason too. So it doesn't really matter the interpretation. It happens, you know. We just have to be mindful to think about where they are in this context and our role as well. You know. So what about your second interview?
That one went pretty well. He was very articulate, knew English very well. His role models were Lil Wayne and Chris Brown. So obviously he's been exposed to some American culture. His hopes and dreams were to be a dancer. He wanted to make himself proud and his family proud. That was like how he measured his success, was his personal pride and the pride of his mother. He actually dropped out of school really, really early. His father died. He said he hadn't been back here since 2000, so that was 12 years ago. So he couldn't have been in more than, like first or second grade. And his dad died, so that's why he went home. And he said something about
he just said it was time for him to step up as a man. Like he had to be there for his mom, for his younger brother, for his younger sister. And when we talked about it, we talked about the major themes were just like, I guess the importance, the value he places on the people he cares about. Just thinking about he wants to care for his mother, and that was like the reason for dropping out. I think that was what he said was the one thing about his life that he wanted to, one thing he would take with him, his mother, wherever he goes, he says his mother. The father, he made a promise to him that he would never be in a gang, like his father was. And he wants to be a dancer, and he said that there's nothing holding him back except his brother's in jail. And he wants to wait until his brother's out before he wants to take him with him to wherever he goes. And of course, just his sister, like looking after her. He doesn't want to leave South Africa. He was talking to us when he wants to get married and start a family of his own. So he's like, so I know I can't live at home. He was like, but I don't want to leave. He's really proud of where he grew up and his family, and he just doesn't want to leave. And he says his community is really supportive.
Never.
Alright, we are in a group, me, Kate, and Steve. Our first interview, he was very well spoken, and I thought he was even mature for his age. He was 13. He knew what he wanted to do. He wants to be a dancer. And his mother is like the biggest thing in his life. Like, I think he's very close with her.
He's very close with his mother.
It was interesting because he said initially that he wanted to be a plumber, but then when we expanded on that, he was like, well, I want to be a dancer, but my family wants me to be a plumber. So he's definitely getting influence from his mother and his father to head in that direction, but he definitely wants to be a dancer, and he's very adamant about, no one's going to hold me back. I'm going to do what I want to do, and like, I'm not going to get involved in drugs and alcohol. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay in my house. I'm going to study. I'm going to get my Xbox. But he was very articulate, very mature for his age.
He doesn't feel safe around this area at all. He's like, it's very bad. Like, I just go to my house and stay in my house. I'm not close with my neighbors. He doesn't really trust anybody, like even his family members. I guess he's like, there's evil in the world. He wants to go to like America or Europe.
Yeah, he wants to travel.
He also is I think he's like passionate about learning too. He like was researching on the internet. He's like, a lot of my friends like smoke and like indulge in alcohol and stuff, and he's like, they don't know what it does to them, and like, how do you know? Do they teach it in school? And he was like, no, I researched it. And he looked up on the internet really hard. Yeah.
The thing that really struck me was the level of independence that he had, because he acknowledged the fact that a lot of people tell him he can't do it, and he acknowledged the fact that all of his friends, he said he didn't have any friends because he can't trust anybody, so that right there, and going back to his house and staying inside, he's very, very independent. But even with that, he takes the time to not just go with his peers to the parties and drink or something, whatever. He actually researched it and looks it up. And that really struck me because, you know, being 13, especially growing up in an area like this where that's not the norm, and being able to break away from that and with no real, well, we asked him like who his role models were, and he said no. Like he looked at us and he was like no. And then as we got deeper in the conversation, we realized, we found out that his dad gets drunk on the weekend and is abusive. So it's you know, from all areas he is getting like what we would look at as pushed down or oppressed, and he still like fights through it and has a good head on his shoulders and has no desire to go down that path at all.
What about the second interview?
He's 21. He dropped out in grade 5, and we had a language barrier with him just because, you know, he dropped out in grade 5, so definitely more comfortable with Afrikaans, but I was surprised at the amount of English that he did get across to us, because if it was me, I would be a mess. But yeah, so he kind of switched back and forth, but he lost his father. He didn't say when exactly, but if I had to guess, I would say that probably had something to do with why he dropped out early. But now he's trying to become a policeman, and he said he starts classes for that on Monday. I'm hoping that wasn't us not understanding it correctly, but that's what he said, that he's starting on Monday, so props to him. But he was nice. I think there was a lot of nodding and smiling just to look like he understood what we were saying. But we got some interesting information from him. He's very close with his mother. He said he's living in a cab. It sounded like he said cab. We're not sure if that's Afrikaans or if like he literally means a car, a cab. So we don't want to like push too hard with that. But
I would think it would be taxi here.
Okay.
I would think it would be cab, but I could be wrong.
Okay. So I mean, well, I'm gonna ask if someone that speaks Afrikaans can look at it, but
I think he liked the area. He's like, it's good, but it's dangerous at night. And he says he will hang out like on the streets and party with people. And he also liked to dance and play rugby. Both of our interviewees like that a lot. Very passionate.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just thinking about this now. Like he actually, aside from the language barrier, seemed very happy to engage in just conversational talk, just saying like what he likes to do to have fun, what he likes to do with his friends. And when we asked him about the hopes and dreams, we did that in the beginning, which may have been a part of it, but he didn't seem like he wanted to talk about it. The language barrier was obviously there, but when it came to talking about more superficial things, it's almost like the language barrier got pushed back a little bit, and he reached down and he was able to talk about it more. You know, oh, I love dancing, I love doing this, I love Eminem. But when it came down to like the really deep things, it was almost like he didn't want to
think that
talk
deeply.
about it. Yeah.
When you're making your observations, this is an area where you really want to give it some thought, because that could be contradictory information. If somebody says that they're going to be a police officer and they start, you know, on Monday, but yet they don't want to talk about their hopes or dreams, then you got to kind of question, are you getting authentic information? Or is it that, you know what I mean?
It's like almost giving us an answer that we want to hear.
Right. Or, I mean, it could very well be that being a policeman is not necessarily what he wants to do, and so he doesn't consider it his hopes and dreams. So you can interpret it a number of different ways. But that would stand out to me to say, I kind of don't know what this means.
So you talked about how his father was in the Army, and that was kind of what was pushing him towards some kind of enforcement law enforcement. So yeah, it was tough in a 30-minute, 40-minute interview to kind of get to the root of stuff like that, especially with the language barrier.
That's an observation too, just really quickly, because I mean, it's one of those things where you say, in 30 minutes, can you really get someone to open up to the point where we can really get the rich data that we're looking for? Next time we do this, we might want to, you know what I mean? So that's something to note as well. All right, next quote.
Okay. Our first girl, she seemed reserved I think she genuinely wanted to talk.
She wasn't nervous. I think she was quiet, both in volume and in personality. She said that her role models were Nelson Mandela, and then she didn't say her role models was her grandmother, but she talked a lot about her grandmother. And she does, like, she makes clothes or something, and we thought she said, like, for the children or something, but she said, like, her grandmother is nice and does nice things. She said that she had support in school and at home as well, and she like listed family members. We couldn't really tell if her dad was like in her life or not. She mentioned she had a dad, and we didn't know if that was like in the past or like now. But she talked about her mom, but really it was like her grandmother that she said, like, I guess had goals for her. She liked sports a lot.
She seemed like she really wants to make her grandmother proud. I think that was a big aspect. So the family is definitely playing a role, and she does get support, I believe, with schoolwork at home, which was good.
Yeah, or from her friends too.
Yeah, definitely with her friends.
I think it was like support at home, but like maybe help with schoolwork kind of here. What else did she say? Oh, she said we asked her what she was afraid about. No, was that the girl?
Yeah, no, that was, the brother thing.
Oh.
Yeah, we asked her if she had any fears, and she mentioned that she was afraid, and she mentioned her brother, but we don't know if it was afraid of her brother, because she said he's only 6, or afraid for her brother in terms of, like,
the future or something.
His future.
Couldn't really tell.
She seemed like really content, and she said she was really safe here and at home. She seemed like really happy with.
Yeah, and she said she wouldn't change anything because no one was angry at her and she wasn't angry. So, and then our second interview was hard just because of the language barrier.
He was a very positive person. He was like really happy and kind of wanted to share, but we think he might have thought we were understanding Afrikaans or like trying to speak, and obviously.
But hopefully when we get it translated, there'll be something. John, asked, just said, like, tell me a story, tell me about yourself. So hopefully we'll get something, but not until tonight.
Just off the top of my head, I was thinking, we thought about this earlier and forgot to remind you. Did anybody have the opportunity to ask their interviewees to draw a picture? Did you think of it? Say it again.
We had
you had a dance, right? That's art. Anybody else? All right, but it's not an issue. But we thought about it. We're like, oh, I guess they could have.
I think we were more thinking like if they mentioned like I really like to draw, then we'd be like, oh, draw something for us.
Yeah.
Just because I think all of us have heard, oh, you like to dance, but you dance for us. Although neither of us would dance for us. They got
Or sing, right? Or make you cry, right?
Yeah.
And then the last group, right?
Both of our interviewees, we had a big language barrier issue. They would start out trying to speak in English, and then sometimes they would get out like 2 words and then finish the rest in Afrikaans, which, I mean, we'll get more detailed answers since it was in Afrikaans, but at the same time, we couldn't interact with whatever answers they gave. So it was a lot harder to probe and get more in-depth information since we didn't know what they were actually saying. I actually found that a lot of the questions we have repeat similar ideas in different ways. I know like the point of that was to reaffirm whatever they say, but I think that sometimes they would hear it and it would sound similar in their head, so they would think like, what's wrong, what's different about this that I should answer differently? So then we would get completely off-base answers.
Can you give an example of that, you think, where that came out? Because I think that's important.
It
is.
is.
It's a good comment.
The little girl we interviewed first, like her whole hopes and dreams was to become a doctor, and that came up constantly. And then one thing she really liked to do in her free time was to sing and to dance with her friends. And I asked her if she saw any way, I didn't use correlation, I don't know what I said, but to have the two together when she's an adult. And then she just paused and she said, oh, I want to help people. And then so she didn't understand and like realized that
like connection.
It's hard to know exactly, but
Mhm.
maybe she didn't understand that being a doctor or even
Well, I mean, we
dancing
had, when we were translating, going back, and then, who's helping us translate?
or did Nancy?
Yeah, and she, that's her
Okay,
perception of
all
it.
right. Okay, all right.
And then we also talked about, the one question says, what are your biggest fears in terms of your dreams? And a lot of them said, both of ours said that they didn't really have fears, and we were told that that was probably because fear in this area is like physical fear for your actual safety, whereas we think of like we're afraid for our future. So she suggested that we say like, what are your biggest barriers or problems? And that might translate better for them.
Try problem. I think barrier is not a word.
Right.
That's going to be that. Going to maybe different with the next interview. We'll see. But problem is your fears. You have problems. Difficulties. I don't know.
Our first interview, she seemed to have a very supportive family. Her parents are together. She has 4 siblings, and she wants to be a doctor. And at one point, she said that her mom told her that her family will make sure that they have the funds to get her to medical school. She has a group of friends that she spends a lot of time with. She knows her education is important. We know she has a stepfather and that he raised her, so I don't know exactly what happened with her biological father, but she has 2 strong parent figures. And she said that she's comfortable where she lives. She doesn't feel unsafe. She said that all the neighbors know each other and they'll recognize if there's a stranger around, and that they all look out for each other. Our second interview was very different. He did say he wanted to become a police officer, but when we asked about his family, he said he lives with his grandmother, uncle, and younger sister. So later it came out that he has an older brother who's in prison, and he said that he feels safe, and then later he said that there is a lot of gang violence around where he lives. And then I asked him like how he still feels safe, and then that's when he mentioned his brother, and the rest was in Afrikaans, so we didn't translate it yet. He said he doesn't talk about his dreams or hopes for the future with anybody, and that he doesn't think that he would find support from his family if he did talk about it.
I think at this point we should probably take like 5 minutes to see if we can find any, common themes up to this point, but then have them go set up because it's 1.
Yeah, they will be here at 2. So
in that way. So if, just from what you've heard, yes.
I feel like a big common theme was people cared a lot about their mother or their mother figure, whoever, I don't know who had the grandma. But like that was really strong in both of ours, and from what I gathered, a lot of the groups.
Right. And so one of the things that you could draw from that could quite possibly be that they're coming from single parent homes. That's the figure that they have there. So that is the figure that they are most familiar with. Possibly could be, Next.
I was going to say another theme was just like occupations or what they want to be. It seems like it's kind of like doctor, police, and I'm wondering like, are these like drilled in at a young age? Like, okay, this is what you need to do to become successful. Because even yesterday, we asked a girl like, what do you want to be? She was like, oh, a doctor. So Katie's like, oh, do you like science? She's like, no, I hate science. And it's kind of just like she didn't even really realize that you need to have a science base to become a doctor. So I think one of the overall themes is just like occupations. I guess these are the people they look up to.
And they know the buzzword ones that don't make the most sense.
You can come in, Nancy. Do you want to talk to me? No?
Yeah, maybe I can just ask about the translation.
Well, we're going to start at 2. Does anybody have a short-ish piece what they'd like maybe Nancy to take a look at over the next maybe 10 minutes real quick? Take advantage of her being here?
We can, but I don't, it's
Ours
longer
is
than...
17 minutes. Theirs is a little longer.
Our one is just
It could be that they're identifying professions where they could be of service to their communities. Because you say doctors, you heard policeman, police officer, you heard fireman. Do you know what I mean? So, yes.
It's going off of what I said, well, it's the same girl, obviously, but that like the reason she wanted to be a doctor, I think, was she said when she was a baby, the doctors or like people around her told her mom she was very bright, so that she could be a doctor. So that seemed to kind of like come up a few times. That's why she wanted to do it. It wasn't because like she liked science, it was because she was smart and they told her that she could, which I guess is also good, but it's not coming from a I wanted
right, because when she
but she didn't want to help people though. So.
Right.
Another thing I think would be like sports and like some kind of art form, like dancing. I think a lot of people did. Like that was a big part of their lives and kind of kept them busy and out of trouble for the most part.
That's what I was going to say. And as far as role models go, I mean, at least the two guys we spoke with, they were athletes or like the one guy said Chris Brown. Like celebrities or athletes.